I got a story for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but I'm looking forward to peeling back all of these layers. And to begin with, I want to know, this is the 4-year anniversary of the pandemic. We go
Mhm.
back to 2020. How did you survive that time period, and how did it change you?
Yeah. That time period was very, very interesting because everyone always thinks about the pandemic in 2020, right? But we also had a bunch of, I don't know, race wars, if you will, right? The BLM movement was during that time.
Mhm.
And that was more impactful for my family than the pandemic was. Luckily, we were healthy enough. I think we ended up getting COVID like March, so like immediately.
Yeah.
And so that's what I equate it to as well, on top of the pandemic. And it was really difficult. I was transitioning my business from my other partners to launching Black Mammoth at the same time. And it was a time of concern for everybody, right? Luckily, I had my own client base, so I wasn't worried about that. But the unknown, the fear of the unknown, usually that gets everyone, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. And I found solace in the fact that most people at that point started to understand that relationships mattered more than anything else, right? They wanted to be with those that matter, or hire people to help them through with that stuff that mattered. And so that's really how we got through it. I talk about it on my podcast, No BS Wealth, all the time. Of the pandemic was one of the greatest things to ever happen to my industry, specifically financial industry, because it got us out of the stone age of always having to meet with people in person. We finally were able to go fully virtual and have people connected throughout the world, let alone the United States, to find the exact person that they want to work with, and not just, Joe Smo because he lives around the corner anymore. And so that's really what got us um, through that time period.
I think about that time period now, and it's easy to look back and to do the armchair quarterback thing and look and see what we could have figured out, because I think we were always teetering on the edge of race and social issues that were untenable, that were not okay at all, the way this country rolls. And I wish we would have had leadership like Obama in office to be like, we're going to help everybody out. This
Right.
is what we're going to do. And unfortunately, I think everybody's going to look back on that time and think about all the squabbling and all of the competitive narratives and all of the things that were not as warm as they could have been if we had people that were really genuinely like, we need to use this as a moment of healing instead of making it a more divisive wedge.
Yeah. No, I agree. I I agree fully on that, but I also am okay with what we learned and who we learned of people during that time period
Yeah,
too.
true.
Right? There's a lot of fakeness going on. There's a lot of hidden thoughts and processes, and it was good to see certain people come to light so that way you could kind of rid them of in your life
Yep.
and bring on people that actually matter.
As you very well know this too, we learn just as much from the good heroes as we do from the bad ones. You know what
Yes,
I'm saying?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so let me ask you this. You're a busy man, you got a lot going on. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders right now, and one of the kids said, "Hey, what do you do for a living? It's career day." How do you answer them?
Yeah, I say I'm the money man. I make sure that everyone else can do what they want to do and make sure the money is taken care of. And that's really how I answer the little kids, and they understand that. They go, "Oh, money." That's how I answer that.
And there's one kid in there that's going to do the whole Jerry Maguire thing. He's going
Yep,
to say it. He's going to say it in the
yep,
back
he
of the
is.
room when you say that.
He is, sure is, and that's the hopefully right. That's what
Right.
we want.
Uh-huh, for sure. So what did you want to be? I'm assuming since you were a football player, that was your dream in the 3rd grade, but I don't want to assume. What was
Right.
your dream?
First dream was actually to be a Navy SEAL,
Okay.
and then to be NFL, secondary. But I always wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And I don't know where it came from, by the way. I don't know if it was a movie. I don't know if it was a video game. Don't ask me. I just knew that they were really badass people.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of good for, our country. And I knew that, I wanted to do so and follow that dream. And then football and sports popped up, and I was better at that and kind of lost sight and kind of went down the athletic route.
I grew up in the 80s, and when Rambo came out, there was a
Ah,
lot of
yeah.
kids that were like, I want to get in the Marines. This is what I want to do. I want to be the highest of the
Yeah.
high and get in there and do it. So let me ask you this. Talk to me about your childhood and the seeds that, because you have a very, very distinct mix here of, being an athlete and then being a financial intellectual. How did those two hemispheres form and grow into who you are today?
Yeah, I natural athlete, I guess. My parents were at some point, but my parents were never together. My dad left when I was 3, I believe. My mom worked 12-hour shifts basically my entire life. Um, I spent a lot of time with my grandpa, who was in the Navy, so I got a lot of that structure. Um, but I was raised in a family that didn't really have any financial literacy. I call it education nowadays, but didn't have any of that, right? Didn't understand money, didn't know why, didn't save, and which is probably the majority of Americans anyway. And I recognized that I didn't want to do that. There's got to be more to this. Luckily, I was naturally really good at math. I was always a few grades ahead in math, and the numbers fascinated me. And then when it comes to sports, that started to get better. And when you start to think about money and athletics combining, it's all about, leadership and growth and skills and grinding. And that's what kind of triggered me into going, I want to help people with their money and be that quarterback and lead them through this life of journey or this journey of life, specifically when it comes to their money situation. And so that's really what mirrored it. And then when I went to Drake, they have a fantastic business program, and it just made it a lot cleaner and easier to see.
So between Omaha and Iowa, there's no NFL presence. So where was your allegiance?
Atlanta Falcons, actually.
Oh wow,
Yeah. Growing up, TBS always showed the Atlanta Braves,
that's
right?
right.
And so I had all of the Braves stuff. I loved baseball. Baseball was my first true sport and love. And so from there, naturally, you go to the Falcons. Every one of my athletic career always had a black and red or some type of form of color. And then in high school, which we were the Warriors, we are red and black, and we actually got the game pants from the Falcons that had Michael Vick. We got theirs as our game pants. And so then it, kind of really locked it in from that perspective.
Yeah,
So grew up Falcons fan, Braves fan. Um, Avalanche is my other team because again, they were on TV, living in
yeah,
Nebraska.
yeah.
Those will be the three.
So I hear to this day that Tom Brady says he can't walk around in Atlanta. Like
Probably,
after that Super Bowl,
yeah,
like I still can't believe that happened. Like I all these years later, because we got Mahomes.
yeah,
We're on this place where I'm still like, I can't believe it's happening.
right,
I
right.
just
Just
I
living life.
can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that game, the last one in that dome,
yeah.
they were up by what? What were they up by? 21 at
It
half?
was 28-3 in the third. Which mathematically, I mean, I'm bitter about it, but I played linebacker in college, knowing defensively and knowing just like game management. From a mathematical standpoint, we could have need every offensive possession and won the game because there was not enough possessions left for them to win.
The one thing I've learned watching Andy Reid is that there is a level of mastering the clock that I've never seen with another coach.
Right.
Because people complain around me, why isn't the score higher? Why isn't this? That's just what he does. He's not
Yep.
worried about blowouts. He's worried about tactically getting in there and using every element of the game
Right.
like a chess game,
Yep. That's why
you
he's
know?
one of the greatest coaches ever.
Yeah, it's wild. And then you got Mahomes that's
Right.
like, no, we're doing it this way. So you get that
Yeah.
cavalier with the calculated, you
Works.
yeah, it does. Definitely works.
It
So
does.
what would be the one game, whether football or baseball, if we get off this call, you get in a time machine, what game are you going to? What do you want to see with your own eyes?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, that's a very good one. Um, for
It's
two
hard.
reasons. One, I don't I haven't gone to very many sporting events in my life because I've always played, right?
Yeah,
So that always makes it difficult because I don't have the experience to know what it would look or feel like.
yeah,
Oh man, I would probably okay. I actually am a double dip here. So
yeah.
I want to say it was I was the 2016 run. The Braves were good too. There was an opportunity to go down and watch the home game for the Falcons and the Braves within the same weekend during
Oh,
the
wow.
playoffs.
Wow.
And I really, really, really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So that would probably be that time for me
Yeah.
because both teams were hot at that point. And
Uh-huh.
um, now I know what had happened. I probably wouldn't want to, but that would
Yeah,
have been the time frame for me.
for sure. So let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you in your life?
Oh, a hero. Um, my grandfather, who's actually my step grandfather, um, has always been that hero for me. He's the one who's basically raised me. We would go before I played sports. He was a truck driver. I would go 2, 3 weeks a year every summer on the road with him. I have over like 3.5 million miles on my belt. Like I've been and learned a lot about culture and how to act and how to do things from him. So I would definitely have to say, my grandfather. I'd even name my oldest child after him because he didn't have any children. So our oldest child's named Lincoln after him.
What a great story, man. What a cool thing to do. A cool gift to impart on not only, a relative, but a young mind that can get molded. Because that's the thing, especially in America, it's so vast. There's so many regions, there's so many things going on. To be able to see that firsthand, that's an education that you're not gonna get anywhere else.
No, and it really came to light when we at Drake in 2011 we went to Tanzania
Yeah,
to go play football at the Kilimanjaro Bowl, and when we landed and went through everything, like I was humbled, but also knowing other cultures just in America, you take that in and you just learn, right? And you're not uncomfortable, you're just like learning. That's when it triggered to me that like how I've been raised with him and seeing all parts of the world gave me a skill that like most of my teammates didn't have, right?
yeah,
Yeah, they might have gone to Mexico and stuff like that, but that doesn't count when you're, basically in a resort. So it
yeah,
was really cool to have that come to light in as a young adult to like see that come to fruition really quickly.
for sure. So, what is the motivation for you every day to wake up, to help people, help financial literacy, and to also grow as a human being and evolve yourself? How does all that work for you?
Yeah, it's learning every day, learning something. Having two boys, learning from them, right? I was an only child, so figuring out the whole sibling rivalry thing, which is real. Everybody that learned that, and being able to just be so well rounded and focused on humanity really allows me to wake up every day and just learn, right? Every situation's different, things change, and you get to just really learn who people are, and that's really, really what's fun and fundamentally what everyone does, right?
Yeah,
Why we have podcasts, what we do is we're just here having fun with each other to spread that to others, and that's really what being a human is. We're here to
yeah.
lift each other up, and that's what gets me going every day.
What's your favorite book? What's been the seminal book in your life that you've loved the most?
There's been a handful, and it changes with where your, course of time is and whatnot, but, I would have to say, let me see real quick. Uh, yeah, currently it's Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Okay.
That is all focused on you owning who you are in every situation, right? And
Yeah.
being very selfless, but also selfish at the same time. That book is ingrained into me, and I use it to train my kids too. Of you have to own your situation in every situation, whether it's your fault or not. There's some part of you that you needs to own what it was or what it is. And I know that's honed into my morals.
So I used to work at the YMCA years ago, and that my partner and I we used to run a teen program, and he was a college football player, played for OU before
Nice.
all of the sanctions happened, and he was a big dude. So like I ran the computer lab, so if I had to beat somebody down with my brain, but if they came up to him, he's like boom, they knew
Yeah.
not to mess with him. So we had a good mix, but we talked a lot about how hard it is at any level to be a professional athlete, especially when you get to that college level. And I remember when I was in junior high, somebody came in on career day and wrote a number on the board. It was like 0.000368. And the guy turned around and put the marker back down and said, "What does that number mean to you?" And we're all like, "I don't know." And he's like,
Right.
"That's the chance that anybody in this room or anybody that you know will ever make it to a professional level in a sport."
Right. Yeah.
So, with that being said, it's hard. I mean, how many people around you made it to the show? I mean, it's a hard thing to do.
Um, I probably have like 4 or 5 with either from my travel team, I and then 1 from Drake who graduated just right after me, but that's very minimal when we talk about 110 new teammates every year, so I had played 5 years, there's, you know, 1 out of 550
Yeah,
there, and then growing up, I know, like, a couple had made it, and faltered out, but you're the numbers are there. You're
yeah.
talking maybe 5 out of over 10,000 athletes that I know.
That's insane, and we went down to the draft in Kansas City last year,
Yeah,
and we went
nice.
on the last day, and we saw the last pick, and I'm just thinking about, like, even Brock Purdy, he was, like, the last pick in that draft
Yep,
2 years ago. Tom Brady was 4th round, I think. I think he
mhm,
was one of the last picks, and it's
yep,
amazing how it can transpire no matter where you're picked at. If
yep,
you make it to the show, there's a chance.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. So, of all of the clients that you've had, what's been one of your favorite success stories?
Oh, they're all amazing because they all have different success stories, right? I get asked this question a lot of like, what's your favorite success story? I'm gonna go with the client that's been around the longest. And I can use her name because we've been knowing each other for so long. But Jody Peterman with Elizabeth Aaron Designs. I think we're going on 12, almost 12 and a half years. One of my first female business owner clients. And to see her go from her business in her home, right? And we transact all the way to now where we are a national virtual firm, but she lives in Florida, has staff here in Iowa, and does commercial properties up and down the coast. And what's really cool about that, I guess, success story is going from an unorganized chaotic mess to having her run around with the, chicken with her head cut off to exactly knowing where she is. And now at this point in time, in about 6 months, the business will operate regardless if she's here or not. And that is really ultimately what we want to do as business owners is build something that can operate without us.
Yeah,
Because if it can operate without us, that's a business. If it's not, then you're working in it, right? You're an employee. And she's really gotten to that point, and to see her expand and grow and be able to move her family across the country if she wanted to, is really a detriment to, or um, really focused on how it is a wealth journey,
yeah,
and it takes time to do all of these things. There
yeah,
is no getting rich quick, right?
yeah.
There's no such thing. It takes that time, and so to see it over a longevity of time, that's really, really fun.
So, of all of the things that you've been through in your life and evolved into, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far. What advice would you impart on your young version?
I would tell my younger version to take that step, whatever that step is, just to
Yeah,
take it and don't be afraid of it. Trust
yeah,
it. It took me a while to do that. Luckily, athletics kind of brought that out of you because when you're, a top high school athlete comes easy. When you get to college, they're all top athletes. And if you don't take that step, that next step for growth, um, you're going to be behind, right? And you're going to plateau, and you plateau, you fail. And so I would tell my younger self just to take that step. You want to just do it. Regardless of the outcome, just do it. You're going to grow more from it than
yeah.
you would just thinking about doing it.
So, if you could meet one athlete alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating or intriguing, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Hmm.
Or you could have a round table if you wanted to open it up.
Yeah, no, there's one that comes to mind, and he's not even in a sport that I really like or follow, and it's because of the business acumen and what he's done for his community and really all the communities. And he gets such a bad rap overall. Um, and people say stick in your lane, but really he's doing more phenomenal work for the youth than I can think of any other athletes that are. And that person would be LeBron James.
Yeah,
He's doing so much in the schooling and education system and business wise. He is creating a legit legacy. If there was ever an athlete to follow and embody, that would be the athlete to do so. Is there a lot of others? Of course, naturally there is, but from someone who is, in the GOAT conversation and is ridiculed for every little thing he does, that man has a family, has a wife, and is doing everything that you should and would want someone who's a leader to do.
I don't get it. I don't get that. He is a good dude.
Yeah.
He's done great stuff. He has a great family. His kid's gonna get ready to go into the NBA, and
Yep.
that I mean, even though it's LeBron James's son, that's still you just don't do
Right.
that, you
Right.
know? So, the pedigree that he puts on, and I have looked into his
Yeah.
what he gives away, and even his interaction with fans, like, I still don't understand why he gets dinged as much as he does. It's weird.
It's just our society,
I know.
right?
I know.
I mean, and everything he does, they try to compare it to Michael Jordan, which my argument with that is you can't compare eras. But
No.
two, what did Michael Jordan do off the court for anybody? Nothing. He's a very narcissistic person. And there's a lot of stories behind all of that,
Uh-huh.
right?
There certainly is.
Um, and so think about that. Like the next generation up would have been Kobe. Kobe's done amazing things, right? And then it just took it to the next step, and that's LeBron. So I don't know where the hate comes from, but it's our society. They
I
don't
know.
want to see successful athletes. They really don't. They want them to be athletes and wither away and be done with them once the entertainment value is gone. They
Yeah,
don't want them to have a voice and be able to use their power for good.
yeah,
And where's that come from? It's just deeply rooted in this country.
yeah, it certainly is. So let me ask you this, of all the things that you've done and accomplished and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
That's hard for me. I'm not really proud of anything that I've done because I don't look at it that way, right? I just do it.
Yeah,
There's nothing for me. And I know that's me and my therapist go back and forth on this all the time. She's like, you need to be proud of yourself. It's very difficult for me to do that with all the trauma things I went through in life. I just know that I'm happy with what I've done, but I can't say that I'm proud of everything. I always think there's something I could have done better, right? There's
yeah,
always one more person I could have helped. There's always something I could have done, and that's usually what keeps me up at night is not regret, but replaying it and going, I could have done that. I should have done that. And that probably keeps me from being super proud of the moment. But um, aside from all of that, my children, having two boys that are healthy and confident and chaotic, that'd be the proudest thing I can say that I'm proud of.
when I talk to therapists a lot, that's the number one thing they always say is that we're always hard on ourselves. We are our own worst enemy when it comes to
Yeah.
hitting and pounding, and it's hard to look in the mirror. So I get it. I totally get it. And that's what happens when you're highly driven. So let me ask you this. This might be an
Mhm.
easier question to answer. Everyone has a perception of you,
Mhm.
family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I would say I'm a very selfless, transparent person. And I mean that as vague as possible. I really am. I really care more about others than myself to a long degree, and I'm also very, very transparent about the things that I do and that I am. Obviously, we all have our own secrets that we keep close to the chest, but outside of that, I'm going to tell everyone how it is and how it's going and what's going on because I believe that's the best thing to do. Knowledge and communication is what gets us around. It's when we start hiding things or not communicating or, just not being very blunt about it is when things start to go awry. And I know that just from my experience in life, it's a lot easier just to cut through it. And yeah, it might hurt or might suck to do it right away, but at least everyone then can be on the same page. And when we're on the same page, we can move forward.
Absolutely. So if anyone wants to get involved with Black Mammoth, learn more about you, reach out, anything about the good business, where do they go?
And go to blackmammoth.com. You also can go all the social medias. I'm on all of them. So look up Stoy Hall on all the socials. But you can go to blackmammoth.com and you can learn everything you want to know.
Right on. Stoy, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your passion and your time. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you too.
Take care.